the questions that are on my mind. Ooh. Since I've been away, all I think about is you. Since I've been away, I'm afraid to know the truth. Since I've been away, life don't feel the same. And I've been so ashamed for thinking the way that I do. The questions, the questions, the questions.
Hey, welcome to the circle.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
I hope you brought your
Hello.
opinions with you, because that's what we're after.
Yes, we are going on opinions only, unless something is stated as fact. Otherwise, we're just here for a discussion. Please don't sue us.
Right?
Yes, nobody here is making any claim that to superior knowledge. No one here thinks that they're going to add anything to the case. This is purely a discussion, just like you probably have a discussion about this if you saw it on the news, or if you're at work and you went to grab a coffee and somebody said, "Have you heard about?" That's what this. It's just discussion. It's like, this is going to be a tacky thing to say, but it's the nearest thing I can do to describe it. It's like a book club for
Mhm.
crime.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're just trying to understand.
Just friends sitting around talking about it.
I mean, there may very well be, when we do cold cases and we discuss that, the conjecture will be much more sort of fixed on all the facts that we have. At the moment, we have a very limited amount of fact, although the recent paperwork that's come out has been quite eye-raising. We don't really know anything more than you do, but everybody's got an opinion, and that's what we want to hear.
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am. So who wants to start? I'm actually pretty new to this. I've only caught bits and pieces, so I'm going to be kind of learning with everybody here.
I'd like to start out with a question that I saw Pearl, I think, ask of Frank the other day, and it
I did,
kind of
yes.
kind of sparked my imagination and my curiosity, I guess is a better word.
And it's amazing because I've swung from one end to the other with this.
Yes.
Do we think this is the first time that he's killed? Or do we think it's just the first time that he's been caught? Well, arrested and charged. Because obviously everybody has the presumption of innocence when they're in the legal process.
Right.
Right. The sloppiness of it sort of makes me think this may have been the first time he actually carried something out. Because if you, I mean, go ahead.
You say sloppy, but it really wasn't that sloppy. There wasn't a lot. At least that we know of that. I mean, he made a mess for sure.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
But he didn't leave a lot of evidence behind. He has
I
the
was
DNA
surprised that he
on
left the knife, the sheath on the bed, though.
Right.
That is such a major screw up.
I think it makes me wonder if that didn't happen first in that room. But it can't. That was the third floor. It would have to be the second. Yeah.
Where was he putting the knife when he left?
I think it did happen on the third floor.
First?
Yeah, because I think if you're reading the probable cause, before he left the house, he was coming from the second floor bedroom.
Ah. So let me refresh my.
I wonder whether he had the knife. Sorry, carry on.
The knife was the sheath was found next to Logan on her right side in the room on the third floor. That's the room where the two girls were. So that's where that sheath was found. So that's what makes me wonder if it happened there first and then he went to the second, back down to where he came in.
But what did he do with the knife? You would have thought that
Oh,
he
I
would have
think he
wanted.
took it with him, huh? Oh, you mean
But
as he left?
yes, but you would have thought that he'd have wanted to put it back in the sheath so to not cut
Right,
himself,
right.
which makes me
But
wonder if he had it on his belt from when he got in the car. But you know, some people tape a knife to their hand. That he wasn't actually using it as a knife holder at that time, and she might have pulled it off because
oh,
it's only held on by a popper.
right. I hadn't considered that.
I hadn't either. That's
I just kept
definitely a
thinking,
thought.
what did he do with the knife? Why didn't he want to put it back in the sheath? It struck me as something that I would immediately notice if I'd got a container for the knife. I would want to put the knife in the container. Do you know what I mean? And because
Right.
he strikes me as a person who is
A little anal.
very repetitive, and I don't want to say OCD because that is actually a serious condition for people, but it's a slang term. Somebody who is very obsessive in his
Yeah.
behaviours and very regimented. I
Yeah, I
wonder
would have
why he
thought that it would
didn't.
have been hanging on his belt loop, that sheet.
Exactly,
Ah,
Gemp.
good. Yeah, Jennifer's
Oh
right.
yes,
You
chat is
know,
on it,
where he
man.
would have just been able to take the knife out. Like, why was he carrying it? And it was
I
not
think he
on his
might have
belt.
carried it out of force of habit because
Oh,
that's
and
where he
and
put it. That's where he
and
wore it,
I
regardless of whether
think
he was using it.
I think when he went into that home, that was definitely he was ready with it. That was definitely his plan. It wasn't any other plan other than to go in there and commit a murder. I don't know that if he intended on 4 or what his intentions were, but in that affidavit, it tells us that he stalked that house. He
Yes,
did
he thought that by not having either not having his phone with him or
on
having
that
it
night.
turned off,
Right.
that that would be that would secure him from them finding out where his phone was and identifying him that way. What he didn't consider was that they would go back and forward and consider his movements on other days, and he gave himself away by repeatedly being in the
Right.
same area in the early hours of the morning. He was obviously scoping that house out.
Yeah. I think if this wasn't his first murder, and I think it may have been, but he fantasized it a
Oh, for
hundred
sure.
times before.
Oh yes, definitely.
That's
I
that's my
agree.
opinion.
I
You see,
agree.
at first I thought four victims, a knife. I mean, that shook me. 4 victims and a knife. 4 victims and
Yes.
a gun. I could understand, but these were
Right.
young, fit people. So that shocked me. He must have been very intimidating in some way. Unless this was going to come out later that he also had a knife that was a gun that was just for threatening. I'm surprised
Mm.
that he managed to control 4 individual people. So at first my thought was he has done this before. You know, other than sort of family annihilation crimes, it's very rare that somebody's first crime is a multiple kill of
Right.
strangers. So my first thought was he has killed before, and this is just the first time that they've tracked him down.
Yes.
Now the details
I'm
coming out make me think this might have been the first time, and he thought that he was prepared, and he was not quite as prepared as he thought he was. The knife sheath really throws me. I don't understand that at all. The only way I could get my head around it was that he had the knife taped to his hand and just had the sheath on his belt out of habit. Didn't realise he'd left it until he took the tape off his hand and the knife, and then thought, it's in the house, or it's, I've lost it in some way, and that must have panicked him. And they say that his phone was pinged in the area the next morning, and there was
right.
speculation that he wondered whether he got a chance of getting in there and getting it, which would have been Seriously, the thought that anyone thought they could do that is just off the charts.
Did you
Yeah,
see
the
what
knife was huge in person.
Jamie says here? So it's not likely that sheath came off by, in the tussle, because if worn properly, it would have gone through the loop on his belt. So he may have been
I will see
carrying
what
it
you're
and
saying.
set it
Yeah.
down.
He must have put it down then, yeah. But then
Yeah.
I don't understand why he didn't notice. Perhaps he was in far more shock and adrenaline rush than he ever expected to be.
Right. If it was his first time, like I said,
Yeah,
I
and that's why
imagine
I'm
he
thinking it
thought
was.
about it a lot. He may have lost a detail or two in his rush of whatever doing that gave to him, that he may not have realized it till he got to his car, but it
Yeah,
was time to go, like you said.
this comment here, the BTK connection, given who his mentor at university was, he was being mentored. I don't know if people know, he was being mentored by the woman who co-wrote the autobiography of BTK. So somebody who had incredible
That's
amount of
interesting, right?
detailed knowledge, and almost certainly he has gone through that work with her and discussed it with her. So this connection of the 4 victims is a first. It's interesting.
Very.
Yeah, crazy. Definitely
Yeah.
put a lot of thought into it.
See, I don't know. This comment here, I always thought that heroin was a sort of a downer / hypnotic.
Well, it makes
My
people
experience has only ever been morphine in hospital, so and so my experience of it is very different to doing it recreationally. I don't know how anybody keeps awake on a good dose of something like that, let alone be hyped up. But different people, different things. I don't know.
Yeah, I was just talking about this the other night with someone. Now, I've worked in healthcare for 19 years and you see everything, but one of the, people that sticks out the most in my mind is an older woman who was addicted to Percocet, and this was when I worked at the VA. So, her husband qualified for, the VA insurance, so she came to detox off of the Percocet, and she spoke about how, and her husband in the groups, how it made her manic. She would be up vacuuming at 3 o'clock in the morning and just completely running around like she was on a meth high. And this was all from the Percocet. And a lot of
That's funny
people,
because that's one of the
yeah.
things that's been said about him by somebody
Mhm.
who lived in the same student accommodation, was that he was an annoyance because he hoovered at night and did all
Yeah.
sorts of chores at night, like he couldn't switch off.
And I could not believe all the people who agreed, like, oh my God, it makes me the same way. And people would like scrub their houses, but that's how their spouses always knew when they were under the influence, because that's when they
Right.
would do stuff like that. So that, yeah, very possible. I mean, I guess in the beginning when people are opiate naive, it would make you kind of sleepy. Like if we were to take a painkiller or a street heroin, whatever, it would make us sick, it would make us tired. But someone who has a tolerance and a habit, it very well could make them like that. So very interesting.
So he could well have been then. I mean, my assumption, again, projecting personal experience onto
Yeah.
his, which is not, you shouldn't do that because everybody reacts differently to medical substances. Perhaps he was hyped up.
Right. That's your first reaction. Like your first thought is, well, it makes me want to sleep for days and, makes me sick. But yeah, it's really hard to try to put yourself in that, because in my experience, I've never had an experience like that with
What
narcotics.
about
Crazy.
what about Adderall?
Yeah.
Isn't that
Yeah,
the drug of choice for a lot of college students?
it is. And it's very easy to get for college students.
Well, I think I heard, and sorry, I got kicked off for a second, so I don't know if you guys mentioned this, but I think I had heard that he was a prior heroin addict.
Interesting.
Oh, I didn't know that about him.
I think it was one of his friends that came out and talked, like former friends, I
Yes,
should say.
I've heard it reported that he seems to have swapped one addiction for another, in that he was very overweight, and then in the process of the time that he lost weight was also when he became an addict. So
Wow.
this is somebody who seems to swap one obsessive behavior for another. And then there's all this talk about his obsessive hand washing and his preoccupation. He's vegan, but more than being vegan, he is like, his family had to go out, and this is the story I've heard. So this is all alleged. This is just what's been reported, that his family had to go out and buy new pots, and he had his own plates and everything, because he refused to eat from anything that had previously, where meat had been used previously in the cooking process in those pots and pans and
Oh
different
wow,
things.
really obsessive.
Wow.
That seems beyond the animal rights morality issue. That seems to be an obsessive behavior.
Right. And controlling.
Very controlling, yeah. I mean, his sister is a psychologist, and I believe his mother is some sort of school counselor.
I believe that's what I heard too. Yes.
And you know what they say about the cobbler's children never having shoes? It would seem that there was professional people around him. I mean, perhaps they did see the problems and tried to help. I shouldn't jump to the conclusion that they didn't try to help. But it's interesting that there would be people who have some sort of professional expertise in connecting with troubled people, and yet that doesn't seem to have really helped him.
Right.
Not at all. And to be honest, before the probable cause came out, I thought definitely not his first time, who goes for 4. But then after reading it, I mean, even with the car, I mean, you have to know everybody has cameras nowadays. I
Yeah.
mean, half the street lights have cameras nowadays.
Yes. But again, I'm wondering whether it's part of this fixated behavior he has, that he used his own car because it was his car, and that's the car that he wanted to use. The same way he drove it back across country before selling it. It just seems, I don't know whether he wanted to get caught or whether his personality is just so inflexible that he can't move from his plan. You know, he can't react. He already
Right.
has things set out, and if you don't fall into the line of what he's planned out, then that sort of throws him. You know, he can't be flexible. Something is very, very strange about this. I'm really fascinated to know more, whether he wanted to get caught, or whether he wanted infamy, or whether it was some sort of revenge thing. What his fascination was with this particular group of people.
Or did he think he was finally ready with his studies and everything that he could pull it off? And
I almost
And-
think that there was a connection to one of the girls upstairs on the 3rd floor. I think that them being in the same bed kind of skewed that. And then if you read through it, it also, you can see that Xana was awake, right? She had just had DoorDash delivered like 15
Yeah, and she
minutes
was on
before.
TikTok.
And she
as
was
well.
she
on
was on,
TikTok.
yeah. At 4:12, she was on TikTok.
So that maybe is where they started to fit in. And I think he knew he had to get out of there. But I think that there was a connection to one of the girls upstairs.
Maybe, I mean, there has to be some sort of connection, you would think, with him stalking that house like 12 times before he
Yeah, that's
actually,
crazy.
I mean, so he was fixated on these,
This
on
comment
on
here,
these
I must
people.
admit, before they actually arrested someone, and there is still a suspect, but from what we've heard about his personality, before he was arrested, I thought it was going to be 2 people. Since he's been arrested, I don't believe he's the sort of person who could have that sort of relationship with someone.
I agree.
So
I
I'd be
don't think
quite
so either.
surprised if there was a second person. But originally, I was convinced it was a 2-person.
Well, because it seems like inconceivable how one person could have done that to 4 people. And what we're talking about 412, we know that that she's active on TikTok. And at what 425 or something like that, his car was driving away, right?
Right.
Yes.
So that's a very short amount of time, and that's a lot of damage done in a short amount of time. It just seems like how could one person do that? But I do believe one did. Now,
Yes.
I agree. It's crazy to me too. Like you would think him studying this, like using a knife. I mean, when you use a knife, a lot of times you cut yourself as well,
Yes.
and therefore leaving DNA.
I don't know if it's true or not, um, but I heard that you know how he got pulled over like twice in Indiana?
Right.
Neither time was he cited. That's why they're saying, oh, they didn't have evidence until, that he had been pulled over, or documentation until they saw the body cam. But I heard that the FBI wanted to get visuals on his hands so that they were already looking for him.
I did hear that. It was put on one of the main news. That's what they reported. I mean, you have to think that, if he did in fact do this, that, I mean, you get pulled over for these. Who has ever been pulled over for not having enough car links between them on the freeway?
Right.
Or a seatbelt, because that used to be a secondary.
Right.
Nobody would pull you over for not wearing a seatbelt, too.
But to get pulled over twice in one
Mhm.
state for not having enough car links, it's just an excuse that to pull him over,
It was
right? And I think
definitely
if I was
right.
hiding something, I would be scared shitless.
Definitely.
Yeah, it just the thing though I found that was odd with that is that the the trooper that pulled him over, at least in the body cam footage I saw, was mostly the trooper's feet in the asphalt. Not much showing Brian.
Right. There was
So,
the other body
you'd
cam
think
footage that came out that showed more of him.
I haven't seen that one. I only saw the one, I guess, but it was the second pullover, the body cam footage I saw.
Right.
But I was like, man, he should have positioned himself like better to have captured the suspects in the vehicle, or suspect.
I agree. No, I seen the other one though, and it shows his face, and they're talking, and um, it was weird. His dad
Mm.
seemed to talk more. I mean, I don't think his dad knew,
I
but
definitely have to go see the other one.
I mean, here's my thought. So when it hits close to home, right, you really pay attention to something. So being that your child is going to school 11 minutes away from what happened, right? You would be following that case because it's close to home. And knowing
Sure.
they're looking for the exact car that your son is driving, I don't know. I think I'd be like, maybe, like considering it.
Yeah, yeah. The thought would cross your mind, but then you would like, at least I would be like, yeah, not my kid. They couldn't possibly do anything like that. I'd be more like in fear of like this horrible crime that was committed so close,
Right.
and think that there must be a million of those cars in that area, right?
Yes.
Because you're not going to believe it's your kid.
Soup, the DNA from the suspect was on the press stud loop that holds the knife into the sheath, not the bit that holds it onto the belt, the actual loop that holds the handle of the knife in. The DNA was on the press stud there, the popper. And so they compared that with the trash from his parents' house. I believe your other question was about what time one of the girl who saw him after the murders. I believe that was sometime between 4:17 and 4:20, which is really specific that they've got it down to that.
Right.
But apparently it's to do with camera spotting where the car was leaving, and also a security camera that was close to the house.
50 feet. Within 50
Yeah.
feet.
Picked up the sound of a scream or sobbing, some noise that was obviously
Whining or something, whimpering, I think
Yeah.
it's described as, yeah. And loud
And the
dog
dog was
barking.
barking.
Right. That's a good indication that something unusual happened there. And, just like they went back in time on his phone, I'm sure they went back in time on that house, on that camera.
Yes.
So, was this normal kind of noise that was heard, or was it unusual? Obviously, something very unusual happened that night.
So what does everybody think about the the so-called witnesses or neighbors who have spoke out?
That one neighbor, something a bit odd about him. I don't believe in any way he was involved. That's not what I'm saying. But when I don't know what he was thinking. What sort of strange person at the end of a conversation about your student neighbours who have been found murdered, and you say something about it being a party house, fair comment, but then you say, oh, well, I'll get some peace and quiet now. What on earth possesses you to say that
He was
about
so
dead
weird.
people?
Yeah.
Socially inept at the very least.
I mean, I think if it was my neighbor, I'd be freaking out a bit of,
Yes.
what if it was
yeah.
me?
Right.
Yeah, he
And
was
him
odd, crazy.
taking trash out in surgical gloves.
Who did
It's a
that? The
strange
neighbor?
way. No.
Oh, no. Okay, I know.
Yeah, Brian did.
No, the
I
whole
wonder if that was like he seems to have these tendencies, right, that are
Right.
kind of obsessive. I wonder if that's something that they had ever like saw him do prior.
Interesting question. Yeah, I am curious as to how he typically would take the trash to the curb.
Jen P's comment here, this is something that we were discussing earlier. And I was saying that my personal opinion, I do think people are being hard on this girl, and I can't imagine whether she was in denial at the moment or where the realization hit later. I don't know, but either way, this is going to be massively traumatic for her. And my response about whether people are being unfair completely switches from whether I consider it being my child. And then my attitude is, she was in shock, she was in denial, she didn't see the implications, it was a party house, or, all those things. But then if I think about my child being one of those who were dead, then my response is, everybody has a cell phone. You must have been suspicious. Why didn't you phone anyway? Why didn't you go upstairs and say, hey, strange guy in the house, and then realise that the other people have been killed? And that's
Right.
how extreme it is between deciding whether, hey, what if it was my child who saw him? Or, hey, what if it was my child who was killed by him? That totally swings how I feel about her.
Yeah,
And
I
that's an
really
awful thing to realise that that's probably going to be the response she's getting from everybody. Poor
my
girl.
my thought is that she didn't realize what it was she saw. I don't think I honestly don't think that she, in her wildest imagination, thought that she just watched a killer exiting. Not until the realization hit in the daytime as to, wow, her roommates were deceased.
Yeah. This is probably going to sound quite strange because I know that I'm hyper aware of smell in a way that many people aren't. It was really unfortunate when I was pregnant because having a hyper sense of smell
Yeah.
and
Yeah, you would
pregnancy
think you would have
hormones, not a
smelled the
great
blood.
mix. Yes, I can smell blood, very small
Yeah.
amounts of
Ugh,
blood. I'm aware
I
of the
can't.
smell. And I'm
Yeah.
astonished that somebody didn't smell that almost immediately. But again, I'm projecting my own feelings onto that situation because from the fact that there was blood dripping out of the house, there was a lot of blood. But then again, not everybody is sensitive. I don't know. She might be a smoker. That's another thing that can affect your
Yeah.
sense of smell. It might have been one of those houses where there's a great amount of house fragrance, perfumes, hairsprays. It could be that, but for me, I'm astonished. But the smell wasn't an immediate thing.
Well, and
Right.
I think with the probable cause too, we are getting very limited info. So who knows what else is known that we don't know because it's not put in there
I
about what she
absolutely
did
agree,
or
Tamara, that it makes no sense to put blame on her. This poor girl is suffering enough.
She's a
It
survivor,
never,
right?
yeah, survivor guilt, regardless of everything else.
Uh,
And whether she didn't realise what was going on or whether her mind did not want to process, just on the off chance that there was blood on his face, there's part of your brain that would go, oh yeah, but it's students pranking, or it's makeup or loads of things that your brain could try and explain it away as, because the reality is something that you don't want to consider as a possibility. I just feel, well, my heart breaks for both of them because
Yeah,
this
it's
is going to follow them
unimaginable.
for a long time, both publicly and psychologically.
right. I think that when you do see something like that your mind tries to obviously make it like more logical than
Yeah, I
what it
think
is
so.
that you see when you. Uh, I can't imagine. I can't imagine when the realization hit her. I can't.
no. And I mean, it
But
was known that it was a party house and that people were in and out of there quite often.
but
And maybe that's part of it.
there was enough unusual sounds that piqued her curiosity to open the door not once, not twice, but 3 times to sort of peek out.
But nothing
Uh,
in that probable cause stated that she heard screaming or
no,
anything,
exactly.
which is also
Right.
weird.
What she seemed to hear was like in all the things that she says that she thinks she heard and what she thought seems perfectly reasonable, right? It
Right. I
wouldn't
mean, she
have.
said she thought she heard maybe crying
And the
from
other problem is,
the.
I don't know about the rest of you who've got kids from that age group, but the chance of finding them without having earbuds in, listening to something,
Mm-hmm.
True.
is pretty remote. We are a shut off society in a way, in that we're all doing our own little thing, regardless playing a game or watching TV or listening to a podcast on your earbuds or listening to music. Everybody has got their own little sound barrier almost. So I can find it
Especially
completely reasonable that she might not have heard anything, or that she
especially
did
if you're
hear something and would have suspected it was just party behaviour.
Right.
yeah. Especially if you're trying to ignore roommates, you might have earbuds in.
Yes.
Just
Yeah.
the
Quite often at
extra
night, as a
sounds they make.
student, I would have preferred to have earbuds or headphones on, because living in
Right.
student housing at night, that age group, that amount of hormones, that amount of people,
Right.
it's very noisy at night. Not
Yes.
always in the way that you would expect.
Right.
We had one girl who lived in the house with us where we actually all got together and decided who was going to go and tell her she had to remove the headboard from her bed because it was driving us insane. Either that or she had to pad the back of it, but we were no longer going to put up with it.
Or at least share the videos, right?
Do we know? So the two people who are survivors, were they out that night as well?
They were back in the house before anybody else. I don't know whether they were out for very long, but they were definitely in the house before the other four. I don't know if they were out.
And can somebody help me out with what night of the week was it prior to the murders? Was it a Friday night or Saturday night?
I believe it was a
November the 12th. Well,
Yeah, it was the early hours of November the 13th that the murders took place.
right. So
I believe I don't know if it was a Friday or a Saturday.
Saturday, they're saying. So they went out on Saturday night, and then the murders occurred early in the mornings on Sunday.
Yeah, the early
correct?
hours of the Sunday morning.
Okay. It's a lot to try to wrap your head around, huh?
But I think, if they had been out too, there obviously if there's alcohol or anything, that could have possibly played a role as well.
Yeah, stars. That's what I can't wrap my head around. How do you do that to 4 people and get away
Yeah.
and not have any kind of like major defensive wounds or, marks on your body?
Yeah, the problem is chloroform actually takes far longer to work than people think.
Not like the movies, huh?
No,
Yeah.
it's not.
No, that's actually my go-to ink remover is alcohol and bleach mixed together makes chloroform, supposedly. But I've always been completely fine.
And,
I mean, I'm
I
not
Well,
believe
mixing
Lolita falls out. We know that she's been cleaning ink or something.
Well, that's how you get ink out of like clothing that has been through the dryer. I don't use big amounts though. Like I'll take
Like
the
a
shirt,
cotton ball or something.
or I don't even do that. I take the
cotton
shirt and I
bud.
put it over the top of the lid and I kind of shake it a little bit on, and then that's it. Like just pour a splash on and do it like that. But I've never even noticed like off gassing or anything. So when I think of somebody making chloroform, like I imagine it in like a big mason jar. But you'd have to hold it there for a while too, I guess.
Yes.
Do we know when he returned to school on that Monday, did people see his hands? Did he wear gloves to school? I'm not sure. I need to look that up.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Did he have any marks on his hands, his arms, his neck? Because like the neck and face are the first things you would think they would go for.
It might not be unusual to, have gloves on during that type of time of year and the
Yeah.
weather that was certainly happening.
Also,
Right.
he's a kickboxer, or at
And he wore
least
a
for a
mask.
substantial amount of time, he was a kickboxer. So it may be that people didn't bat an eyelid
Associate
at him.
damage to.
Also, an obsessive hand washer. Did you see his nails? His
No.
nails are absolutely bleached out. You know, that sort of obsessive hand gel, hand scrubbing
Mm-hmm.
thing where even the pink section of the nail gets that sort of white and dried out look.
Wow.
Interesting.
I mean, almost like his hands have been bleached.
Yeah, he's an odd one, that's for sure.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like he had some OCD tendencies for sure. I wonder what he was like as a child. Was this
Yes.
something that developed later, or was he like that? His whole life. The personality
Yeah,
traits are
yeah.
often
Right.
present early on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is going to be very tough on his family because with the
Sure.
best will in the world, you can't shape every aspect of a person's life.
You can't, and hindsight's 2020, isn't it?
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
sure
I don't
different
know.
than when, something seems innocuous as far as, you know,
I was
things and behaviors and whatnot.
trying to read up on him and to see what he was like as a kid and in school, to see if he was kind of quirky and stuff
He
like
was
that.
very
I guess.
overweight and was
Mhm.
bullied. And
Right.
Yeah.
then within the period of just less than a year, he lost like over 100 pounds in weight and took up kickboxing and then became an aggressive bully.
Yes, in high school, that's what I was reading. Some of the
And then
students.
at some point, the addiction behavior happened.
Very
But you know,
interesting.
that's not uncommon when somebody loses a huge amount of weight, or when people have gastric surgery.
Mhm.
They're warned about developing another, like an alcohol habit or a gambling
Yes,
habit, that quite often the behavior will transpose into something else,
and it
another
does.
addictive behavior, because food addiction is real, and
Right.
unlike alcohol or drugs, it's not something that you can abstain from completely. It's
Mhm.
You
so
absolutely have
people
to eat to
often
live,
try to
right?
control their feelings in another way.
Yeah, yeah. My sister-in-law had gotten gastric bypass, like complete gastric bypass, and she
Wow,
had
the big one.
yes, she had lost, I think, almost 300 pounds, like 270 some pounds. And she was insanely bipolar before that. And you're supposed to go through all kinds of counseling and evaluations before they'll even do that. And they gave it to her anyway. And after the weight came off and she couldn't eat because your stomach has a limited capacity after that too, because I think they put a lap band on her after that because she was still trying to eat, but she went from just being typical bipolar to being a compulsive shoplifter. And then she got the surgery after her and my brother divorced, and then she met some guy and they became swingers. Like, she completely lost her shit after all that, and then the weight came off. So oh yeah, Chris. Right. And a lot of people too, when they lose a lot of weight, they kind of get this, I don't know how to word it without sounding bad, but they overconfident, maybe, like they become
Yes.
overly confident and sometimes promiscuous. Yeah, so like what I keep wondering, and I think a lot of us wonder this in a lot of true crime cases, are monsters born or are they made? So I'm curious as to how his life experiences molded him into the psychopath that he is now, or if he was just born with a screw loose, or both.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of nature and a little bit of nurture in most cases. But there are some people who seem to have a blessed lifestyle, and just there's
Mhm.
something not right with them. I mean, some people believe in the concept of evil. Um, I'm sort of torn on it because the religious overtones. But yes, I do think that there is something in people. There are certain people who that is just who they are.
Yeah.
They were made that way.
Or made
The whole bad seed thing.
Mhm.
It seems an awful thing to say, but I do believe it's true.
It's a personality disorder, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're born with something misfiring.
Right. It's either that or some kind of trauma that they've
I mean, yes,
experienced.
some people literally have physical head trauma, and it changes their personality.
Mhm.
My brother-in-law had a significant accident. He was a roofer, and he fell 2 stories. Fortunately, there was sand where he fell, but even so, he did quite a bit of damage to his frontal lobes. Fortunately, not permanently, but for a while he was not the same person at all.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Often, right following severe head injuries, they'll tell you that the patient is can be extremely combative, and that's an indication of a significant head injury.
Yes, there was a TV personality in the UK called Richard Hammond. He used to do a car program, and he had a high-speed crash. He was trying to get the land speed record, and went over and seriously damaged his head. I mean, to the point where he now talks about the fact that he has no memory of 9 months after the accident. Looking back, he's done
Mm-hmm.
programs and he can't remember them at all. But when they got to him and they airlifted him out to the hospital, he was really aggressive with the people who were trying to help him, to the point of violence, because he was convinced he was okay. That's how serious his head injury was. It was like he just was not having it. No, I'm fine. I'm not going anywhere. Leave me alone.
Right.
Sort of wanting to fight them off when they had to
Yes.
airlift him out. So yeah, head injuries are strange things.
Yeah, and even trauma can change your brain and
Right.
turn
I
you into
mean,
something.
Yeah, and
look
PTSD
at
and
exactly.
CPTSD.
Yeah, I'm the
Even
master
people
of
have extensive therapy, it can still be an issue. But on the other hand, you can have therapy and it can make a huge difference.
yeah, and I guess sometimes too that their brain just completely gets rewired, and that's just who they become. I often wondered that with in the Summer Wells case with Candace. Has trauma completely changed her brain to the point where not even therapy can reset
Yeah.
it.
Talking about head
Right.
injuries
SARS.
affecting people, wasn't there some sort of wrestler in the US who killed his wife and son, was it?
Yes.
And they believe
Football
that
player.
might have had something to do with
Was
brain
that
changes.
Chris Benoit, was it? I
That
believe.
the name sounds right, yeah. Did he not? Did he kill himself as well? Was it a murder suicide? I can't remember.
I believe so.
And a football player did that too, right?
Yeah, I think a couple of football players. One actually did. Was it Hernandez? He killed people, but Richard Sherman, one of my favorite football players of all times, just recently had a DV incident where he just lost his shit on his wife and his parents, and they were blaming head injuries.
I mean, that's kind of been like proven that that's a real thing
Mm-hmm.
with
Yes.
the changes. I mean, what was that movie called that kind of talked about the
Yes,
head
I'm aware of it,
injuries?
and I can't think of the title at
I
all.
can't think of it, but it was like really eye-opening, and I had let one of my boys play football as a youngster, in the Pop Warner All-American uh, things for it was good for his discipline and focus. This was my
Mm-hmm.
hyperactive one, and had I known then about
Right.
all the damage that could be permanent, he would have never been able to suit up the first time.
Well, this country, they don't even wear helmets. We have rugby, which is very similar in tackling style to American
Wow.
football, and nobody wears a helmet. They've had to put a concussion protocol into place, but realistically, the fact that nobody wears head protection is far more of a serious situation than just sort of making sure people sit it out if there's a question mark over the concussion. You need to be more proactive about the concussion than just trying to deal with it when it happens.
Right. And they used to just like, when they suspected a concussion, they might sideline you for a game or something, but not a significant amount of time to actually let you recover. And, and it really kind of shook me because then also my daughter did competitive cheer and she suffered a couple concussions. Um, I had no idea the lasting damage that could be done from something considered as a mild
Yeah.
concussion.
And the scary part is most people by the age of 5 have already suffered, 2 major concussions.
Just learning to walk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had corner protectors on things, and still they managed to beam themselves on something. It's incredible. It's like children have a magnetic attraction to something that can bang their head on. It's incredible.
Right. And they hit their head um, so often when they first learn to walk, just being the height that they're at on tables and whatnot, you know.
That's interesting. It's an interesting use of technology. Great idea. Hopefully, it'll make a big difference to future health of players. Because people are always going to want to play some sort of sport. They're never going to be able to stop. At the competitive nature of young people, it's almost inherent.
Yep. I just heard back from Justin. We asked Justin if he'd wanted to join us tonight on panel, and he's stuck at work, so I guess he's fighting traffic on the way
Yeah,
home.
I believe he works 2 jobs and does
Mhm.
YouTube and has twins.
Yeah.
Super dad.
Yeah, Superman, huh?
I mean, he does also have like his partner, and his partner's mum lives in, I believe. So he's not completely sort of, when he's on YouTube, it's not as if they're neglected, even though somebody had the cheek to suggest that to him with a super chat. Such charm.
Wow. Amazing.
Yes, I really do want to know more about this guy's childhood, although it's going to be really tough thinking about the family, all this coming out for them. Just they didn't sign on for this, nobody does. I was reading in the chat that the parents of one of the girls said that they can forgive him. They're better people than I am. I certainly not at this stage. There's no way I can consider it. It may be that helps them. Some people find it incredibly damaging emotionally and psychologically to hold on to that anger. Like I said, better people than me. I'm not sure that I could. I feel so desperately sorry for the families of all the young students involved, the ones that lost their lives and the 2 that survived. And if my assumption about the comment about the male voice in the affidavit, the male voice saying, "It's okay, I'll help you," or "I'm going to help you," I suspect that was the boyfriend, not the person who committed the
Right.
murders.
Justin said that, and I
That
was
is
like, because when I read
heartbreaking.
in the affidavit, I'd assumed that it was the killer, right? And then Justin said something in his live, and I was like, I bet he's right. That makes sense. That it was the boyfriend.
Yeah. And that he was either seriously injured at that point and still more concerned about her, or he was killed in the process of trying to help her.
Yeah.
God bless him.
It's definitely going to be an interesting case when it gets to trial. That's for sure.
Quick sidestep. Cindy is off to the beach.
Yes, I was texting with her earlier. We were discussing the differences between the East Coast beaches. I don't know if anyone has been to a New Jersey beach as opposed to a beach in Maryland or North Carolina, South Carolina.
No, I've only been in beaches either side of the Florida coast, so I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, you've been to the nice ones. New Jersey beaches are disgusting. There's garbage, jellyfish. Yeah, they're pretty gross. But there's more sand. You have to walk farther in the sand to get to the coastline, but at least Maryland, Delaware, they're very clean.
Our beaches aren't always like the cleanest, but I absolutely love our
Oh, West
beaches.
Coast beaches are beautiful.
The waves, it's like, I
You
love
know
it.
that talking about Cindy, I want to say the thing, and I don't know whether I should or not. But the mere thought that this could even be a rumor is infuriating me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say it, and I will take personal responsibility.
No,
I
say
don't
it.
know whether this is a lie or whether somebody has actually said this to Ziggy. If somebody
yeah.
has said this to Ziggy, that Cindy was lying about her son and that her son was not in hospital, I can assure you her son was very seriously, he's still ill, but at that point was very seriously ill in hospital. We've seen the details of the scans that he had and his physical problem and the process, and we were there during it, the whole conversations. We saw the effect it had on her. I don't know whether Ziggy's lying that somebody said it to her just so that she can hurt Cindy, or whether somebody has actually said it to her. But either way, the people saying it are disgusting. And the thought that you could text Cindy and say that you had been told that the story about her son being in a hospital was a lie. There's no low for you. There's just no bottom to how
Absolutely not.
low you will go. Whenever I think you've reached the bottom, you manage to limbo underneath the bar and you disgust me. Anyway, I just had to get that out.
I agree.
Yeah, grosser than gross. No, it's more. I think it's made up. Personally, I don't think
I
a
think it's
single
made up and
person.
was said to hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything to try to make herself the victim and Cindy the victimizer.
Anyway, Larry, who is a man of a just great character and who adores Cindy. They are a fantastic couple. He has
Adorable
swept her
couple.
away to the beach. She doesn't want to go, but I know she'll have fun when she gets there. And so I hope she's going to have a great weekend.
Yes.
Yeah,
She deserves it.
she does.
Oh, is she live now, Flip Flop? I'm sure that's fascinating.
I don't think it's alive. I think it's a. Oh no, it is live. Never mind.
She was talking about the affidavit for this Idaho case, and she couldn't even get the names right. So
Yeah,
Glad you
and
found us too, Dukes.
the fake social media profiles that have been debunked forever ago.
And in fact, even the one that seemed most legit, the Reddit one, because he had previously used Reddit, the person who runs that particular subreddit said that it was not his account.
Well, I think in every case, you always have people who pretend.
Yeah, and 4chan is notorious for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's disgusting, but it happens.
It's how I heard somebody when people were discussing this Reddit profile, that some people were saying, "Oh yes, because you know that on Reddit, they named the Boston bomber before it was out on the news. Yeah, at the third time of asking, does anybody remember that the first two people that they named as Boston bombers were in fact innocent people, had no connection whatsoever? But they were plastered over thousands of comments on Reddit. So again, like a certain psychic who is known for having discovered, having predicted where the bodies of two children would be found, it's a case of third or fourth time lucky. So I wouldn't put a whole lot of faith on Reddit comments. I do like
Right.
Reddit for some things, but I'm not sure that I would rely on confessions posted on Reddit. Let's put it that way.
So
Hey,
Cindy's in
just
chat.
me, Cindy, darling. I'm sorry.
How's the beach?
I rage vomited words out just because I'm so angry on your behalf. I hope you're off at the beach now or on your way getting ready to go. Give my love to Larry. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, I was just talking to my oldest daughter in the car today. We were thrift shopping, and I was saying for her birthday in the spring, every year I always say we're going to do this or that, and then we never do it. And I said Cindy and Larry want us to come down to visit. So I'm going to use some vacation days in the spring around her birthday and kind of make it a twofer. I get to hang out with Cindy and Larry, and her friends can hit the beaches. And
I'm super jealous.
And
Cindy,
FaceTime is
if you
the whole
listen, sorry.
Good.
No, go on, Pearl.
Cindy, if you rewind a little bit, you'll hear me making it very clear that is bullshit. I hope I haven't overstepped the mark on your behalf, but I hate the thought, and hate's a very strong term, but I mean it. I hate the thought that anybody has the sheer nerve to insinuate you are not telling the truth about the illness of your child, because he'll always be your child, regardless of how old he gets and how many kids of his own he has. It's unnecessary and it's just plain cruel.
Hey, Harley.
Hey, Harley. Yeah, it is cruel, and it was all made up for the sole purpose of just, getting one over on her, I guess.
Hey, TJ.
Hey,
Can you hear
y'all.
us now, hon? Oh, good.
Lost my sound. I don't know what happened.
That happens to me sometimes. It's
I
annoying,
think
huh?
yeah, my daughter called. I think that messed my iPad up. But I can hear y'all now.
Good.
Oh, good. And I seen somebody, I can't remember who it was, that commented about the Reddit profile being linked to his email. That's correct. There was one, and that was the one where he was asking for people to tell their stories and for that study.
Yes, the research project.
Yeah. But there's also been fake ones.
Would be interesting to see that research project, right?
Well, and I shouldn't even say fake. There's been ones where people thought that was him, but it is not.
That was certainly the case with Instagrams. There were about 5 or 6 Instagrams, some of which had the same name, which, I mean, I know it's a fairly unusual name, but the world is a big place.
Right.
And some that were obviously fakes, sort of as soon as the name of a suspect comes out, you know what it's like. Some attention seekers just can't help themselves.
Right. Yeah, it happens in every case.
Apparently, that was a legit legit research thing that was organised by a group. But I must admit, when I first heard about it and the type of questions talking about how the person's feelings were before, during, and after the crime, just made me think like, this is sort of psychological porn for this guy. But apparently, it was a legit group piece of research. So. Get that child a prize.
Yeah,
Right?
I will. She had to call and tell me so.
The amount of times I've clapped and cheered.
Right?
Yeah, we usually
Celebrated a
have a
little
party.
poo-poo in the potty.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we usually have to have a party or whatever, you know.
I know. It's the things you end up doing. You never
Yeah,
saw yourself doing.
yeah, singing and dancing and,
Right.
you know, a whole bunch of adults clapping and
The kid
Yeah,
thinking you're absolutely insane.
yeah,
it's the
Yeah.
moments when you find yourself trying to cut up somebody else's meat or
yeah,
put the ketchup on the plate that are the
Oh
real
yeah.
worries.
And then you look
Or
over
indeed
and
the
it's an
first time
adult
there are
and you're
no
like, oh, sorry.
or the first time there are no children in the car, but you still go, "Oh look, a fire engine," and then
yeah.
realise it's just you and the husband in the car, and he looks at you like, "Have you lost every single one of your marbles?"
Oh
Or
god.
if you drive by and you see cows and you say, "Oh, look at the cows."
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh man.
That's funny.
Start quizzing your husband on what animal sounds. What does
Yes.
that say? What does
Oh,
that say?
Eliza, I have I need to talk to your grandson later. I have a joke for him.
Oh,
Oh,
excellent.
okay. He'll
Yeah,
be excited.
yeah, it's a good one too. He's gonna like it. It's another dad joke, but he'll
Oh,
like it.
he's storing them in his data bank.
Yeah, yeah. So I just got this one from the husband, so
Nice.
I told him I knew exactly who I had to tell.
It's hard to think that this guy at some stage was an innocent little kid that was probably also being clapped and cheered for basic
Right?
things. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine being his parents and you're thinking back on all those
Uh,
things that we think about,
yeah.
those happy moments, those funny moments, all those little memories, and you wonder like, when did this happen? When did this sort of thing take over? Well, probably if I was his parent, I'd be thinking like, okay, they're gonna prove you didn't do this. So I would be in complete denial probably.
Yeah, I've heard that they're standing by him and they believe that he'll be exonerated. I
Right.
fear that it's going to be a very tough trial for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I can only imagine.
Well, I can't even imagine like the two survivors in the house. I mean, they're gonna have to relive all this again to go through trial.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and just wait till when the trial starts going on, all of the information coming out that we don't know now, and how
Right.
more
I was
horrible.
astonished by how much information was already out in that affidavit. It
Right.
seemed very detailed.
Well, and everybody said like there's a gag order and all of that, but really,
Well, the gag order
it
wasn't
doesn't mean that we won't get information. It just means that the lawyers can't talk about it and that sort of thing. But um, reporters are going to be able to report on things that are factual in the documents that through the proceedings. Correct? Am I understanding
Yes.
correctly?
right. So the gag order only pertains to, yeah, law enforcement, the DA, the defense. So they cannot talk about the case publicly, any of them. So the only information that we will get is what is released through the courts.
Right.
But
Which is
yeah,
going to
news can
be the
do whatever they
most
want.
right.
If they want to interview people or, whatever, they can do what they want.
Right. So a lot of people were like, "Oh my God, there's a gag order. That's it." Well, no, it's not. It doesn't mean that everyone cannot talk about it. That's
Right.
not how it works.
I just think it's to protect the integrity and not
And
have somebody say something they shouldn't publicly.
certainly important because they will need a jury at some
Right.
point for this trial, and We certainly don't want stuff that is going to come out in the trial that they don't want out to the public, coming out and tainting a jury.
Right. I mean, yeah, we don't want him getting off for, bullshit.
Not if he did this.
No.
Absolutely not.
And I would
want the
imagine they're gonna
guilty
have
prosecuted.
they're gonna have a change of venue anyway. That would be my guess.
Yeah, I think so too.
It'll probably go to like Boise or something.
Moscow is a pretty tiny town
It is.
and
Yeah, it
mostly
seems to be
populated by
completely
college
dominated.
students, right?
Right.
I believe it's completely dominated by the university when the university's in term. That must be quite a difficult situation, the whole clash between town and gown. I mean, I know they're reliant on it financially. So
Right.
must have been a difficult situation for both the university and the town to deal with.
With it kind of
Must be
turning
an
into
awful
a ghost
situation,
town
actually.
during all this.
Imagine if you've got kids signed up ready to go.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the chances of lightning striking twice are remote, but I still don't know whether I'd be too thrilled at it, the idea of my child going there.
Yeah.
So I just looked it up, and Moscow has, like right at 25,000 people total.
Okay, J. Marie, take care, hon. That's scary.
Oh, goodness.
Holy crap. That's terrifying. Hopefully she's okay.
Poor girl.
Who?
J. Marie's daughter's store got robbed, and her daughter's really shaken up from it, so
Oh
she's
my
going to go to her.
goodness.
Well, the good news is that she's here to be shaken up by it.
Yes,
Because
yes,
sometimes
yes.
these things go very badly. So
Yeah,
that's good news.
I
And
got robbed.
everything
one
else can be
time.
replaced. But yeah, poor girl.
Yeah.
I got robbed one time where I worked.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it was rather humorous. But it was rather humorous, but really not at the time. But I worked in a hotel restaurant, and there was a bar in the hotel, and I was in the restaurant, and there was a carnival in town, and one of the carnival guys had come in the back door and had a garbage bag, and he was loading it full of food. Well, I walked back into the kitchen and I saw him, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I'm getting food." And anyway, he had this big ham in his hands, and I guess the only thing he could think to do was throw that ham at me. Luckily, it didn't hit me.
Oh, goodness.
So I go running out of the kitchen to the bar, and the two bartenders come running over there, and they didn't know what to do. So one grabbed a fork and one grabbed a knife, a butter knife, and they go chasing him down the alley. Well, and so I called the police, and the police finally called him, and I'm like, "Look, let the man have the ham. He's obviously hungry, or else he wouldn't have come in here to get food." So I ended up making him a plate of food, and they didn't arrest him. But anyway, I never was traumatized by it, but later looking back, it was pretty funny, but not really,
Right.
But
Startling for sure.
Yeah, but everybody at work laughed at me forever, talking about the robber who threw a ham at me.
Tried to stop you with a little bacon.
Yeah. And I said, well, at least, I didn't take off with a fork.
Right? Or a butter knife.
Oh, me. That was many, many, many years ago.
Hey, Blanca.
There's Tanga. People were asking about her.
Oh, there's Tanga. Hey, Tanga. And Harley's in the chat.
Yeah, Blanca's busy running the cartel for the rest of us this evening.
Oh yeah,
While we talk true crime, she's out there doing it.
yeah.
Yeah, slinging cocaine and trying to run a channel is hard work.
Do you know how
We gotta take it in
difficult it
shifts.
is to co-run a Mexican drug cartel from the UK? Whew, it's so much effort.
Wait, I thought we were Colombian.
And I'm not sure where we are.
Oops.
Yeah.
That's our cover story.
Well, I
It's the
named
name
my
of Blanca's
cats
bar.
after the Colombian cartel members. I should have named them after Mexican ones.
That's next time. That's the kittens.
Yeah, there'll be more. There's
Didn't somebody say
international.
that's what we was part of the cartel?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
Actually, I think what he was talking about was, do you remember when we were going to Lucian was supposed to be the second case that we were going to cover, and then we went and did all this research for it, and then I believe he was found.
Yes,
And
and his family didn't want
You know-
they wanted
Yes.
privacy and for it not to be discussed. So we
Can I
Right.
say something real
we
quick? And I
respected
know
that.
I'm regressing a little bit, but you know, Purple said last night, getting all upset with Frank about
That he'd
something
been
he said.
murdered.
Yeah, she said he'd been murdered. What?
Says
what?
a
He
murdered
hadn't been
child. It's
murdered.
like,
He wasn't murdered.
no, it was an accidental drowning, an absolute tragedy, which is bad
No
enough.
foul play
Don't
involved.
make it worse. That's
Wait,
the
will you
sort of
repeat that?
Repeat. Okay.
What she said.
Purple said something about, you know, how dare he disrespect a murdered child or something, but that is not an exact quote. That is the
it's more or less the exact quote.
okay.
It's
It
not
was very
far off.
similar to that.
Very
was
very
something-
similar to that.
Oh,
Okay,
my.
Brandy went on to Purple's, and in the process of just having a general discussion, asked for people to put up blue hearts and sharks, because you know Lucian loved sharks, in the chat. Frank said something typically unfortunate, because you know he was a bit on one, and he said that he'd put a "fuck you" in the chat. You know, it was a sort of really crass, dumb thing that people say when they're drunk and are not really connecting with the conversation. That's not an excuse, that's an explanation. There's no excuse for responding like that. And Purple said today, going over it yet again, said, how dare he disrespect a murdered child? Lucian was not murdered. It was an accidental drowning. He was missing for, was it nearly a year? I can't remember exactly how many months
since,
it was.
Since I want to say late October.
Yeah, I was thinking September, so somewhere in there, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
The fall time, since the fall.
Yeah.
And unfortunately was quite recently his body was discovered. They had
In the
no
river.
reason to suspect foul play, nothing about the situation suggested foul play, and the autopsy, the declaration was that it was an accidental death by drowning, and his family decided that they wanted to withdraw from all public aspects, so we didn't go on to cover
Right.
that case. But we mentioned somebody who had been involved, boots on the ground, searching for him. And this person, coincidentally, has a fantastic TikTok where he dances with bulls. So that was the sum total of our interest in him. He had searched in a case that we were about to cover. So obviously his comments came up while we were researching. And then we discovered he got an amazing TikTok where he dances with bulls. What's not to love about that? I mean, it's fantastic. You want to see him. It's like, I've never seen anything like it. I mean, there's no sort of equipment. He doesn't hurt the bull in any way. The risk is only to him. It's not riled up or anything other than it wants to chase him. So of course we commented on that,
Yes,
Right.
and a certain
and for
someone
somehow
is
that got
terrified of him.
that got twisted into we were talking to him. We've never spoken to him. He's just somebody who came up in the research. He's very involved in Facebook groups and has actually been searching.
But apparently he's a member of the cartel, according to said
Yes,
person.
the fantastic assumption that because of his ethnic background, therefore drug dealer.
Sounds
Well,
about
there you
white.
go. Sounds about white. Yes. So yeah, that's our cartel connection. Somebody we've never spoken to, whose TikTok I admired. Flipping heck, I'm seriously glad that you don't sit in judgment on actual crimes.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know, I've got elastic that doesn't stretch that far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So yeah,
how ridiculous. And we like I wanted to reach out to him to have him on panel to speak about Lucian, but that's as far as it goes. Like, how did one deduce from his social media that he's a cartel member? Like cartel
Right.
members search for missing children and dance with wolves.
And that we're somehow involved in cartel.
Someone is scared shitless of what's his name, Vinny Garcia.
yeah, it was
And
just
that was
really, really
also
strange.
some of the appeal too.
Well, yes, that was a bit of the appeal, but he was just somebody who'd searched in a case where there was actually very, very little
Mm-hmm.
public stuff. I mean, I was amazed at what Eliza managed to dig up. It was incredible. I know from trying to look myself how difficult it was. This was not a well covered situation at all, which is why
Well,
Brandy asked us to cover it.
I think the whole problem with it was that there just wasn't much information there. I mean, he was there at the park one minute.
And then he was
Dad
gone.
turned around to change a diaper, and the boy was gone, just like that. And there wasn't any real clues. So you had a location and
Yeah,
that
I
bit
mean,
of
not
information,
even
and
not
a
even a white
good
car.
description of what he was wearing.
Yes,
That's what you had to work with. It wasn't a lot to go on. So
absolutely
I was
tragic.
very curious to hear from somebody that had actually, kind of been on the ground and looking and stuff to what their thoughts were, because it was just a situation where, wow, just not a lot of info there. It was a tough one to find information on. There.
And such a heartbreakingly beautiful little boy. I
Oh my
mean,
gosh.
Yeah.
stunning little child. Just looking at photographs of him broke your heart.
Yeah, he was a little doll.
So yeah,
But
that's the background to our cartel involvement. For those of you intrigued by the conversations that are going on elsewhere, it's all bullshit.
I think most people know to associate certain people with bullshit. Anyway.
Right.
Sherry, it is so good to see you. I am so glad you popped up in our chat. My gosh, so many like crazy scenarios. We're going through like our heads, like what happened, because the last we heard from you, you were sick, and your cat was sick, and so I'm glad to see you back.
I'm glad to see you back. We've missed you. We've missed chatting to you. Yes, the last time I remember you speaking to us, you did not feel well, and there was the poor loss of your rescue kitty.
Yeah, and the
The
worst
lip lock's going through
scenarios.
that as well at the moment.
Yeah, two of them in 2 days too.
Oh
My
God.
God. But like the worst scenarios go through your head, like, oh my God, did she have COVID and get really sick? Or you know what I mean? Like you don't know what to think.
We're just glad to have her back.
Yes, absolutely.
You have to get in the chat and catch up with us. Let us catch up with you. Discord chat. Discord. That's not a Circle Jerks Discord. It's a totally separate Discord that we're both in with Sherry. I was astonished reading the affidavit that the only DNA evidence seemed to be on that the knife sheath. Doesn't appear that there was any sort of massive fingernail. So that was the only one mentioned. I mean, it may come out in the trial that there was DNA under fingernails, but it hasn't been mentioned so far. I'm intrigued to know how he managed to control 4 people. I can't quite get my head around it.
No, I agree. I was surprised too. I figured, a lot of people have fingernails or whatever, that there would have been something there. But I mean, I don't know, like, okay, so I'm trying to picture the whole mask. Was it like a face mask like you wore during COVID, or was it like a whole mask
Or
where
what, like the
just you
ones
could
that you
see his
wear under ski
eyes?
masks, or
Right,
like sort of, like a balaclava type thing, those silky ones that cling to your face quite a lot, and you've just got the eye
right.
section.
Hmm.
Okay.
I won't be at all surprised if it comes out that he had a gun as well and just did not choose to use it. Because I can't get my head around the idea of him being able to control these people so effectively in such a short amount of time. As in, they weren't separated and tied up or anything like that. There's no evidence of that. He was in, he killed 4 people, and he got out all quite quickly.
Right.
Darlings, I'm going to have to go quiet now, but I will be in the chat. I really, really enjoyed talking to you all and seeing the comments in the chat.
Thank you,
Have a
Pearl.
good
So I
night.
will
Yeah,
say
thank
good
you for
night,
coming, Pearl.
and I
Yes,
will
thank you,
sit
Pearl.
down. I'll see you all later, girls.
Love
All
you.
right.
All right, love you, Pearl. Good night.
Good night.
Yes, Buttercup, I'll get your wrench in a second. I had to step out for a minute and pick my daughter up from a school dance, so I'm not at my laptop.
They have a school dance.
Yeah, it was a ski lodge theme thing.
Well, those kids are gonna stink when they get home.
Yeah,
Then they've been
I don't
dancing in
think
ski clothes.
I don't think they really dance at dances. I think they just kind of go to hang out. But it was a ski lodge theme thing where they have hot chocolate and all that other stuff. And of course, she didn't tell me until 5:30 that she needs to be there
Mhm.
for 6 o'clock.
That's typical kids for you.
Right.
That's kind of like telling you the night before that they need 3 dozen cupcakes in the morning.
She does that all the time. They have potlucks in school, so it's like for holidays and certain things where everybody brings something, and it's always the night before. Oh, by the way, I need a crock pot of chili to feed 36 kids tomorrow by 8 o'clock.
Mine were notorious for that science fair project that was due, and now they
Yeah.
need the presentation board and the whole bit.
Yes, and thank God for Amazon, because every single year it's the same thing. Oh yeah, by the way, Monday is our science fair, so then you
Right.
can order what they need on
And all the other
Amazon for
kids
2
that
days.
planned ahead already bought the stuff that's in town.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I think the most memorable one was the lemon battery, and that won second place. And that was a last minute Amazon thing where we powered these tiny little LED lights with a lemon.
We made volcanoes.
Those are fun.
Yeah, I did one year too. The paper mache and the balloons.
Yeah.
I think my favorite one, and it wasn't one that my kids did, it was one that was there. And in my opinion, it should have won first place because it was the best. Someone did, they looked to see which brand of disinfectant wipes killed the most bacteria. And by the way, Lysol brand disinfectant wipes won. Blue Clorox completely out of the water.
Really?
Good to know.
Lysol's the
And
best.
yeah, and it significantly reduced the amount of bacteria compared to Clorox. And I was shocked because Clorox, you think of bleach, and bleach, you think of complete disinfectant. But another favorite was someone exposed plants to different kinds of music to see which ones, thrived better. And I believe it was classical music. They did the best, and heavy metal was the worst.
I tend to agree with Harley on this one. I hate when there was homework that had to involve me. Have I lost sound, or is everybody else just muted?
I was muted.
I was muted
Okay.
too.
Huh. I was like, what? I think I needed. I was about to drop down.
I had to yell at my dog to be quiet. Well, I didn't yell, but you know.
Well, come on, Buttercup.
Where did Tits go? Did
All
she have
right,
to leave?
sorry. I had to mute loud kids. Yeah, did somebody leave? I heard somebody saying that they were leaving, and then I had to take my earbuds out so I could hear what the screaming kids were trying to tell me.
Oh, Pearl had to go.
Oh
You say
yeah.
goodbye to her.
Oh, I did catch that one. I thought somebody else said there's
Maybe
Buttercup. Do
she
you need
just dropped off.
the link, or does anyone want a link to discuss anything?
Yeah, anybody want to come up?
Let me get the link here. Copy. All right. Oh, come on, paste it into the chat.
I'm having the same issue. I was trying to do
There
it
we
too.
go.
You got it?
Yeah, I had to I had my browser zoomed in, and I had to unzoom it so I could see the chat button.
Come on up and share your thoughts on this case.
I think everybody's shy. Come on, if we can do it, y'all can do it. Come on up. Let's see. I think we ought to just close our eyes and pick somebody out of chat, and they have to come up.
I don't know if they're going to agree to that.
I think my dog is outside barking at the neighbor's chickens. He doesn't like them at all.
We can't catch it from here, Stars. Come on up.
Stars, get up
You'll get
here.
on, Shy.
Hey, if I can do it, you can do it. I just haven't been able to since my husband was upstairs and being a grump.
Julie Effin Applewhite,
That's me.
the BFF.
I love you guys. And my dogs want to act up a lot of times.
Well, that's my daughter's dog's outside barking at the chickens.
We had a
He
neighbor
just can't shut
What?
up for nothing.
because of the chicken. He wants the chicken.
I don't know. He's scared. He would be scared to death if it got over here in our yard. He would be scared to death.
Run.
He's a big old pit bull, and
Aw.
I mean huge. But he's a big old scaredy cat. He would be scared of that chicken.
I have one that wouldn't bother with it, and the other two would definitely go after it. But we had a neighbor that had them, and they no longer live there. But his rooster got over on my porch, and I was like sitting there petting it, and I was like, I have to put you back over. And then the guy swore that my golden ate his chicken, and I was like, there was no evidence of blood on her or any feathers laying in my yard. She would more or less chase them than do that. But he was different. More than likely, it was the neighbors behind him that would do that. Because we have some people around here that don't like animals, that are not nice to them.
No, I don't like that.
No, I don't either.
My husband and I served on our local Humane Society board for many years, and we helped build a new shelter. And we don't live down there now, but we still try to help them all we can. But
Yeah, I like our Humane Society. I cannot go in there. I have such a hard time seeing those pets in there. They didn't ask to be born.
well, my daughter, she saw on Facebook that some lady had 4 baby kitties that didn't have a mother,
Oh,
so she had to go get them
yeah.
because they had said the kittens wasn't eating. So she was like, I have to go get them, Mom. I was like, yeah, of course you do. So she went and got them. Now they're completely weaned. She's got them all eating wet food, and
Aw.
now they don't want to give them away. And I'm like,
Yeah,
that's 5 kitties. You have to give them away.
yeah.
But I don't know if they're going to. They're all really, really cute little black long hair kitties.
Oh,
And they've got one of them's got a stripe right down the middle of its face. They're just really, really cute.
I bet they are. I'm always seeing all the ferals around here, and it breaks my heart. Like my cats throw fits about them wanting to feed them.
Well, the lady told her that she couldn't get them to eat. And my daughter's like, well, have you cleaned their bottoms? And she said, no, I didn't know to do that. She said, yeah, you have to clean them, or else, they have to be able to get rid of,
Right.
If you don't keep them clean, they can't do that on their own.
Right. That's what Mama was for.
Yeah. So she said as soon as she got them home and cleaned them all, and she said they just started eating, and they haven't stopped eating.
Oh, they're growing. They're trying to catch up now.
Oh, yeah.
Poor babies. People would get their cats fixed.
Oh, I'll be right back. My phone's ringing.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't get in on talking about the Idaho 4. Sorry, guys.
Well, you can talk about them now.
I've
Sarah, are you
enjoyed
guys
it.
ready?
But listen,
Yeah.
I haven't enjoyed what happened to it or anything. It makes me angry, and that these kids' life was taken. It still boggles my mind how he got out of there without any bloody footprints, even in the snow. Because it sounded like a massacre to me inside. Just horrible.
All right.
I'm
If
back
we're
to.
done discussing, I guess we can end for now.
Yeah, my husband's coming to get me for dinner, so
Ooh, what are you eating?
I don't know. We're going to one of our favorite places. So I don't know what I'm going to eat yet. They got really good
All right.
food.
Well, thank you everybody for coming, and we will
Thank you,
definitely
guys.
keep in touch about the next topic. If anybody has suggestions up.
And just
And
remember,
please-
we're working out the kinks.
And please share our page.
Yes. Sorry.
The dog agrees.
Yes.
Yes.
She's very vocal.
And so does.
Since I've been away.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.